"Daddy, why is that lady sleeping in her car?" Lily Reed's voice was small, half buried under her blanket, but it cut through the rain harder than thunder. "Before we go any further, tell me where in the world you're watching this video from, and what time it is where you are right now, because somewhere, at some hour, someone is making the same choice Marcus Reed had to make that night. Walk away because it is safer, or step closer because another human being is cold." It was 2:07 in the morning in downtown Chicago, the kind of hour when the glass towers stopped pretending they were alive and the streets belonged to delivery trucks, yellow cabs, and people too tired to explain why they were still awake. Rain slid down the concrete walls of the underground parking garage beneath Carter Holdings, turning the fluorescent lights into pale, trembling reflections on the floor. Marcus stood beside his old Ford Explorer with his work jacket zipped to his chin, a ring of keys hanging from one hand, and his 8-year-old daughter bundled in the back seat behind him. He had just finished a 14-hour maintenance shift nobody upstairs would ever remember. A blown electrical panel on the 32nd floor, a leaking pipe near the executive conference room, 3 emergency calls from people who would not know his name by sunrise. He was supposed to be home 2 hours ago. Lily had fallen asleep on a folded hoodie in the employee break room after her babysitter canceled and Marcus had no one else to call. Now she sat upright in the back seat, rubbing one eye, staring through the rain-speckled windshield at a black Mercedes parked crookedly near the far wall. At first Marcus thought the car had been abandoned. Then he saw the fog on the inside of the driver's window, a slow, uneven cloud of breath. He told Lily to stay put, but his voice had softened before the words even reached her. He crossed the garage carefully, boots echoing against wet concrete, every instinct in him already warning him to turn around. A black single father, after midnight, approaching a luxury car with a woman inside. There were too many ways for that story to be twisted before the truth could open its mouth. He stopped 3 feet from the door and leaned just enough to see through the glass. The woman inside was curled toward the steering wheel, one hand tucked beneath her cheek, her blonde hair loosened from the kind of perfect shape people paid other people to maintain. Her coat was damp at the collar. A leather overnight bag sat on the passenger seat. Her phone lay dark in the cup holder. Marcus recognized her before his mind wanted to. Evelyn Carter, founder and CEO of Carter Holdings. The woman whose name was carved into the wall above the lobby in brushed steel letters. The woman whose heels clicked past the maintenance staff without slowing. The woman who had signed the restructuring memo that might cut his health benefits by Christmas. And yet, here she was, not behind a boardroom table, not beneath camera lights, not surrounded by assistants, but asleep in a locked car under her own building like she had nowhere else in the world to go. Behind him, Lily opened the Explorer door despite what he had said. "Daddy," she whispered again, stepping into the cold with her blanket around her shoulders. "Is she sick?" Marcus looked back at his daughter. He saw worry in her face, not curiosity. He saw the kind of mercy children still carry before the world teaches them to measure who deserves it. He could leave. He could call security from a distance. He could decide this woman's trouble was too expensive for a man like him to touch. Instead, Marcus raised his hand and tapped gently on the Mercedes window. Evelyn Carter woke with a gasp, eyes wide, fingers tightening around her keys as if fear had found her before she remembered her own name. For one long second, Evelyn Carter did not unlock the door. She stared at Marcus through the wet glass as if she were trying to decide whether he was real or another problem sent to find her. Marcus stepped back immediately, both palms visible, giving her space. He knew how fear looked on a face that was used to control. It did not always look like weakness. Sometimes it looked like anger. "Ma'am," he said through the window, his voice low enough not to startle her. "I work maintenance in this building. I am not here to bother you. I just need to know if you are all right." Evelyn blinked, still breathing hard, then looked past him and saw Lily standing near the Explorer with a blanket clutched around her shoulders. Something in her expression shifted. Not trust, not yet, but recognition that a child was watching. Slowly, she lowered the window 2 inches. Cold air rushed out of the car, carrying the faint smell of rain, leather, and coffee gone stale. "I am fine," she said, though nothing about her voice sounded fine. "You should go home." Marcus nodded once, accepting the words without accepting the lie. That was how he had survived most of his life, by hearing what people said and noticing what they could not hide. The engine was off. The garage was 40 degrees at most. Her coat was too thin for sleeping upright in February. Her phone screen was black. One heel lay on the passenger side floorboard, and the other was still on her foot. This was not rest. This was surrender with the doors locked. "It is cold down here," Marcus said. "Security will not make rounds for another hour. If you need someone called, I can call them." Evelyn's mouth tightened. There is no one to call. The sentence came out sharper than she intended, and for the first time she looked embarrassed by her own truth. Marcus glanced back at Lily. His daughter had not moved. 3 hours earlier, she had been curled up in the employee break room on a vinyl couch too short for even her small body, using her backpack as a pillow while Marcus worked down the hall. Her babysitter, Mrs. Alvarez, had called at 5:17 that evening, apologizing through a cough, saying she had a fever and could not risk getting Lily sick. Marcus had stared at the phone in his kitchen with his uniform shirt half-buttoned and a bill from the pediatric clinic sitting open on the counter. Missing another shift was not an option. The supervisor had already warned the whole night crew that corporate was reviewing hours, attendance, and operational efficiency, which was the kind of phrase that made working people disappear on paper before they disappeared in real life. So Marcus packed Lily's spelling book, her blue blanket, 2 peanut butter sandwiches, and the small stuffed rabbit she insisted was too grown up for her, but still brought everywhere when she was tired. He told her it would be a quiet night. He had believed that. Carter Holdings after dark usually belonged to people like him. Janitors pushing carts, guards drinking coffee from paper cups, technicians kneeling beneath panels no executive had ever seen. Upstairs, the company carried Evelyn Carter's name like a crown. Downstairs, men and women with sore backs kept the lights on beneath it. Marcus had seen Evelyn only a handful of times before. Once in the lobby, surrounded by lawyers. Once stepping out of a private elevator while he held a toolbox and moved aside. She had not been cruel. Cruelty would have required noticing him. Now she sat 12 floors below her own office. Looking at him like pride was the last warm thing she had left. Marcus took another careful step back. "Then at least let me call the front desk and have them open a room upstairs where you can sit until morning." Evelyn gave a tired, humorless laugh. "I own this building," she whispered, eyes shining in the dim light. "And tonight I cannot get past my own lobby without becoming tomorrow morning's headline." Evelyn's words settled into the cold space between them, and for a moment even the rain seemed quieter. Marcus had heard wealthy people complain before. He had repaired executive bathrooms larger than his daughter's bedroom and listened to men in tailored suits curse over coffee machines that cost more than his monthly rent. But this was different. Evelyn Carter was not complaining about inconvenience. She was admitting defeat in the only language pride would allow. Lily came closer, slow and careful, her blanket dragging along the damp concrete. Marcus started to tell her to stay back, but she was already holding out the blanket with both hands. "You can use this," she said. "It is warm if you fold it twice." Evelyn looked at the blanket as if Lily had offered her something impossible. "Sweetheart, I cannot take that from you. You are colder than me," Lily said simply. "And Daddy says we do not waste warmth." Marcus looked down, almost, smiling despite the hour, despite the risk, despite the strange ache growing in his chest. Evelyn reached through the narrow opening and touched the edge of the blanket, not taking it at first, only feeling the soft blue fabric between her fingers. Her face tightened, and Marcus realized she was trying not to cry in front of a child. "Thank you," she whispered. Then, after a pause, she unlocked the door. The sound was small, but it changed everything. Marcus opened the driver's door only enough for her to step out on her own. He did not offer his hand unless she asked for it. He knew dignity mattered most when life had already taken nearly everything else. Evelyn stood slowly, one shoe on, one stockinged foot touching the cold concrete before she found the missing heel and slipped it on with a quiet wince. She was tall, elegant, and visibly exhausted, the kind of woman trained to stand straight even while falling apart. Up close, Marcus saw what the dark glass had hidden. Her eyes were swollen. Her mascara had faded beneath them. A pale mark circled her ring finger where something had recently been removed. "My divorce was finalized yesterday," she said, not looking at either of them. By 6 o'clock, my attorney stopped answering. By 9, the board wanted an emergency meeting. By 11, my card stopped working. At midnight, every hotel downtown had a photographer in the lobby. She gave another brittle laugh. Apparently, heartbreak is private only when you are poor. Marcus did not correct her. Pain made people say things sideways. Do you have family nearby? He asked. Evelyn stared toward the garage exit. My mother told me I chose this life. My sister said she could not have reporters near her children. My friends sent heart emojis and then stopped picking up. Lily frowned. That is not helping. Evelyn looked at her, and this time the tears rose too quickly to hide. She turned her face away, but the damage was done. Marcus saw the CEO disappear for one breath, leaving only a woman who had built an empire and still ended up alone under fluorescent lights. His common sense told him to call someone official, to step away, to protect his own name. His conscience reminded him that official people had office hours, and Cole did not wait until morning. Miss Carter, he said carefully, you cannot stay down here. I have a small apartment 15 minutes from here. My daughter will be there. I will call my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, before we arrive. She is 72, retired from the public library, and she does not miss a thing. You can sit in the living room, warm up, charge your phone, and decide what to do when the sun comes up. Evelyn stared at him like he had spoken in a language she had forgotten. You would do that after what my company is doing to your department? Marcus glanced at Lily, then back at Evelyn. I am not helping your company, he said. I am helping a woman who should not have to sleep in a car. Marcus did not let Evelyn answer until he had made the necessary calls. He stood beside the Mercedes with Lily tucked close to his side and dialed Mrs. Patterson from his cracked phone. She picked up on the fourth ring, her voice rough with sleep, but sharp enough to cut through any excuse. Marcus Reed, somebody better be in the hospital. No, ma'am, Marcus said. I need your help. I am bringing someone home who has nowhere safe to sit until morning. I need you to be awake when we get there. There was a pause, not judgment, just understanding. Mrs. Patterson had lived long enough to know that good deeds needed witnesses in a world eager to misunderstand them. I will put coffee on, she said. The drive took 17 minutes through nearly empty streets washed silver by rain. Evelyn sat in the front passenger seat, silent, Lily behind her with the blue blanket now spread across both their laps like a small treaty. No one mentioned the difference between the Mercedes left behind and the aging Explorer carrying them away. Marcus kept both hands on the wheel and his eyes on the road. He did not ask questions. He did not fill the quiet with advice. That restraint unsettled Evelyn more than curiosity would have. She was used to people wanting something from her. Answers, access, favors, signatures, money. Marcus seemed to want only to get everyone safely indoors. His apartment building stood on a quiet street on the south side, 3 stories of old brick with black railings and porch lights that flickered in the rain. It was not impressive, but it was cared for. A pot of winter herbs sat near the entrance. Someone had taped a child's drawing of a snowman inside the lobby glass. Evelyn followed Marcus up one flight of stairs, carrying her overnight bag as if it weighed more than leather and clothes. Mrs. Patterson was already waiting in the hall in a purple robe, silver hair wrapped in a scarf, one eyebrow raised with the authority of a retired librarian who had corrected generations of children and city officials alike. Miss Carter, Marcus said, this is Mrs. Patterson. She lives across the hall. Mrs. Patterson, this is Evelyn Carter. Mrs. Patterson looked Evelyn over, not impressed by the name, not dismissive of the woman. Come in before you catch pneumonia, trying to be proud. For the first time all night, Lily giggled. The apartment was small, warm, and clean. A framed photograph of Marcus's late wife, Naomi, sat on a shelf beside Lily's school pictures. Work boots rested neatly by the door. A half-finished jigsaw puzzle covered one corner of the kitchen table. The smell of chicken soup lingered in the air. Marcus gave Evelyn a towel, a dry sweatshirt still folded from the laundry, and the charger from his own phone. He pointed to the sofa and left the hallway light on. Mrs. Patterson settled into the armchair with a mug of coffee, making the room feel less like a secret and more like a shelter. Evelyn noticed every careful boundary Marcus created. He kept distance without making her feel unwanted. He offered help without touching her life more than necessary. He made Lily brush her teeth, checked her spelling list, and warmed soup in a small saucepan as if 2 o'clock in the morning had not become the strangest hour of all their lives. When he placed a bowl in front of Evelyn, she stared at it too long. I do not remember the last time someone gave me food without expecting a meeting afterward, she said. Marcus sat across the room, not across from her. Then just eat, he answered gently. Lily, sleepy again, leaned against the doorframe of her bedroom. Daddy says people do not become invisible just because they are broken. Evelyn lowered her spoon. Across the table, beneath a stack of mail, she saw a company envelope with the Carter Holdings logo and Marcus Reed's name printed under the words Benefits Review. Her face changed as she realized the man who had opened his door to her might soon lose the very security her signature had helped put at risk. Evelyn did not touch the envelope, but Marcus saw her notice it. He picked it up calmly and slid it beneath the stack of mail, not to hide it, but to keep shame from entering a room where his daughter was still awake. That came yesterday, he said. It is not your problem tonight. Evelyn looked at him as if the sentence had landed harder than blame. My name is on that letterhead. Your name is on the building too, Marcus answered softly. But you were still cold in the garage. Mrs. Patterson made a quiet sound from her chair, the kind of sound older women make when truth walks into a room and sits down without asking permission. Lily yawned, and Marcus guided her back to bed, tucking the blanket around her shoulders. Is Miss Evelyn going to be okay? She whispered. Marcus brushed a curl away from her forehead. We are going to help her get to morning. When he returned, Evelyn's phone had come back to life on the charger. It would not stop vibrating. The screen filled with missed calls, messages, alerts, news notifications, and names that made her face close again one by one. Her attorney, her chief financial officer, her assistant, 3 board members, her mother, Daniel Whitmore. The last name appeared 6 times in a row, each message shorter and colder than the one before. Evelyn unlocked the phone with a trembling thumb. Marcus looked away, giving her privacy, but the room was too small for panic to stay private. The board meeting has been moved to 9 o'clock, she said. Daniel is asking them to appoint an interim executive. Mrs. Patterson sat forward. Can he do that? Evelyn swallowed. If they believe I am unstable, yes. If they believe I disappeared last night, yes. If they believe I spent the night somewhere that can be made to look improper, absolutely. Marcus understood the final word without needing it explained. He had spent his whole adult life avoiding situations that other people could rename. Helping could become trespassing. Kindness could become motive. A ride home could become a rumor. A black father trying to protect a woman in crisis could become whatever a powerful man needed it to become by breakfast. Evelyn's phone rang again. Daniel's name filled the screen. She let it ring twice before answering on speaker, not because she wanted witnesses, but because Marcus quietly said, "Truth sounds different when it is not alone." Daniel's voice entered the room smooth and concerned, the voice of a man who had practiced sounding reasonable. Evelyn, thank God. Everyone is worried. Where are you? Safe, she said. That was not my question. A pause followed, polite enough to be dangerous. The board needs reassurance. You vanished after a very emotional legal proceeding. Reporters are already asking questions. Do not make this worse. Evelyn's jaw tightened. You locked me out of the penthouse. Our attorneys advised temporary control of shared property. My corporate card stopped working. Financial review. Standard procedure. You had photographers at the hotels. Daniel sighed, almost sadly. Listen to yourself. This is exactly what concerns people. Marcus watched Evelyn's fingers curl around the phone. Not rage. Restraint. The kind that costs more. Then Daniel's tone changed, just slightly. Come to the meeting alone. No dramatic entrance. No accusations. And do not involve whatever employee was foolish enough to take you in. A man like that has more to lose than you do. Evelyn went still. Mrs. Patterson's eyes narrowed. Marcus did not move. Daniel continued, softer now. Does he have a child? I would hate for social services to receive a confusing report before lunch. The room seemed to shrink around Lily's closed bedroom door. Evelyn ended the call, her face pale with shock and shame. Marcus reached for his phone, opened the hallway camera app Mrs. Patterson had helped him install after a package theft, and turned the screen toward the window. Across the street, under a bare tree, a gray sedan sat with its lights off. A small flash blinked from the driver's side. Someone was taking pictures. Marcus lowered the phone before Evelyn could stare too long. Fear had a way of becoming heavier when a person kept looking at the proof. Mrs. Patterson stood from the armchair, tied her robe tighter, and crossed to the window without turning on a light. Gray sedan, Illinois plates, one man inside, she said. He has been there since before you came upstairs. I thought he was somebody's foolish boyfriend. Evelyn pressed both hands against the edge of the table. Daniel is not just trying to embarrass me. He is building a story. Then we stopped giving him silence to edit, Marcus said. His voice was calm, but something in it made Evelyn look up. Not anger, not panic, a steadiness that had been earned the hard way. He saved the hallway camera footage, then asked Mrs. Patterson to write down the exact time Evelyn entered the building, the exact time she arrived at the apartment, and the fact that Lily and Mrs. Patterson had been present the entire time. Evelyn watched him work with quiet precision, labeling files, forwarding copies to a secure email, photographing Daniel's messages without touching the phone longer than necessary. You have done this before, she said. Marcus did not answer right away. He walked to the kitchen, poured water into a glass, and set it in front of her. Years ago, before Naomi got sick, I worked safety systems for a logistics company outside Joliet. Access logs, camera backups, emergency procedures, things nobody cares about until something goes wrong. Evelyn stared at him. Why are you in maintenance? He glanced toward Lily's bedroom door. Because hospitals do not care how talented you used to be. They send bills in the present tense. Night work let me take Lily to school, sit beside my wife during treatments, and keep insurance as long as I could. The room went quiet around Naomi's name. Evelyn looked toward the framed photograph on the shelf, the smiling woman Marcus had loved, and something inside her softened with respect. She had spent years measuring people by titles, yet the man in front of her had lost more than status and still knew how to stand upright. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from her chief financial officer. Board convening early. Daniel says you are compromised. Come prepared to transfer authority. Evelyn closed her eyes. If I walk in there alone, they will make me defend my sanity before I can defend my company. Then do not walk in alone, Mrs. Patterson said. Walk in with facts. Marcus nodded. The building keeps backup footage below the executive level. Most people forget that because the main security dashboard looks cleaner. The basement system stores raw feeds for 72 hours. If Daniel had someone follow you in that garage, it may still be there. Evelyn looked at him as if another light had come on. You know how to access it? I know where it lives, Marcus said. Access is different. But the night security supervisor knows me, and he knows I do not ask for things I should not. From the bedroom doorway, Lily's sleepy voice appeared. Daddy. Marcus turned instantly. I am here, baby. She walked out holding her stuffed rabbit, eyes moving from one adult face to another. Are bad people coming? Marcus knelt in front of her, careful not to lie and careful not to feed fear. Some people are making bad choices. That is different. Lily looked at Evelyn. Are you scared? Evelyn's answer caught in her throat. All night she had fought to remain composed, but a child's question left no room for performance. Yes, she said softly. Lily nodded with grave understanding. Daddy gets scared too. He just does not let fear drive. Marcus looked down, swallowing the emotion before it could show too much. Then he stood, reached for his work jacket, and picked up the key ring that could open half the doors powerful people never noticed. We go in through the service entrance, he said. No cameras for reporters, no lobby, no Daniel waiting with a smile. We get the footage first, then you walk into that boardroom with the truth beside you. The rain had thinned to a mist by the time Marcus turned the Explorer onto the service road behind Carter Holdings. Dawn had not arrived, but the sky over Chicago had softened from black to a bruised gray. Lily sat in the back seat with her backpack on her lap, quieter than usual, while Mrs. Patterson followed in her own car because she had declared, without invitation, that she was not letting truth walk into a rich man's trap without an old woman behind it. Evelyn wore Marcus's dry sweatshirt beneath her coat, her hair pulled back with a rubber band Lily had found in the glove compartment. She looked less like the woman from magazine covers and more like someone preparing to reclaim her own name. Marcus parked near the loading dock, where delivery trucks usually idled before sunrise and no reporter would think to wait. He led them through a steel door marked Authorized Personnel Only, using the third key on his ring. The hallway inside smelled faintly of floor wax, old coffee, and warm machinery. Evelyn followed close behind, not because she was helpless, but because for the first time all night, she trusted someone who had no reason to protect her except principle. At the security office, an older guard named Jerome looked up from his desk and nearly dropped his coffee. Marcus? Miss Carter. Marcus lifted one hand. Morning, Jerome. We need the basement backup from last night. Garage level 2, midnight to 2:30. Jerome's eyes moved from Evelyn's tired face to Lily's backpack to Mrs. Patterson's expression, and whatever question he had wisely disappeared. Main system showed a maintenance blackout, he said. Funny thing, though, backup did not. Before he could pull up the files, a voice came from the hallway behind them. Step away from that terminal. The new security manager, Brad Collins, strode in with his suit jacket half-buttoned and his face already arranged into authority. He had been hired 3 months earlier from Daniel's private firm and treated night staff like furniture that occasionally spoke. His gaze landed on Marcus first, then sharpened with satisfaction. Reed, you are not authorized to bring visitors through a restricted entrance, especially not a child. Marcus placed himself slightly in front of Lily without making a show of it. Miss Carter owns the building. Brad smiled thinly. Miss Carter is currently under board review. Until the meeting concludes, access decisions go through executive security. Evelyn stepped forward. I am still chief executive officer. For the moment, Brad said, polite enough to sound clean and ugly at the same time. But this is a corporate facility, not a shelter. Lily's fingers tightened around Marcus's jacket. Evelyn's face changed with anger, but Marcus spoke before she could. Jerome, do not delete anything. Do not open anything. Just preserve the timestamp. Brad turned on him. You are finished here. I should call the police for unauthorized access and child endangerment. Mrs. Patterson laughed once, dry and fearless. Young man, I was reading city ordinances before your mother was packing your lunch. Choose your next words like they cost money. Brad ignored her and lifted his phone. Then Daniel appeared at the end of the hall in a navy overcoat, calm, shaved, rested, as if he had not spent the night arranging another person's ruin. Evelyn, he said gently, this is exactly what we were afraid of. Sneaking through service corridors with an hourly employee and a little girl. Evelyn went pale, not from shame, but from realizing how rehearsed he sounded. Daniel looked at Marcus with practiced concern. Mr. Reed, think carefully. You have a daughter, a job, a benefits review pending. Do not let her drag you into a fight she already lost. Marcus looked down at Lily, then back at Daniel. His voice stayed low. I stayed quiet because my child was watching. But quiet never meant weak. He nodded toward Jerome. Preserve the footage. Daniel's smile faded for the first time. Jerome's hand hovered over the keyboard, waiting for someone with more authority than fear to tell him what to do. Evelyn stepped beside Marcus, no longer hiding behind exhaustion. Preserve it, she said. That is a direct instruction from the chief executive officer of this company. Brad looked to Daniel, and that small glance told the room more than any confession could have. Daniel's expression tightened for less than a second before he recovered. This is becoming theatrical, he said. Evelyn, the board is already upstairs. Come. Explain why you spent the night in an employee's apartment while your company was in crisis. Mrs. Patterson lifted her phone, and I will explain that she arrived with a child present, a retired librarian present, hallway camera footage, and a bowl of soup that was more decent than anything I have heard from you. Daniel ignored her, but one of the elevator doors opened behind him and 2 board members stepped out, drawn by the raised voices they were pretending not to hear. One was Margaret Ellis, 70 years old, white-haired, and sharp-eyed, the only person on the board who had known Evelyn before Carter Holdings became a name on downtown buildings. What is going on down here? She asked. Evelyn turned to her. You need to see the backup footage before anyone votes. Daniel moved quickly. Margaret, this is an ambush built on emotion. Marcus finally looked at him fully. No, sir. Emotion is what you were counting on. Facts are what you forgot. Jerome opened the backup system. Grainy footage filled the monitor, timestamped from the garage level 2 camera that most executives did not know existed. At 11:48 in the evening, Evelyn's Mercedes entered the garage. At 12:16, a man in a dark coat walked past it twice, speaking into a phone. At 12:39, the same man placed something near the payment kiosk. At 1:04, Brad appeared on camera, swiped into the security panel, and disabled the main feed under a maintenance label. At 1:22, the gray sedan later seen outside Marcus's apartment rolled slowly behind Evelyn's parked car. The room went silent except for the low hum of the machines. Brad's face drained of confidence. Daniel said nothing. Marcus pointed to the corner of the screen. That is not a blackout. That is manual interference. And the plate on that sedan matches the vehicle outside my building less than an hour later. Margaret leaned closer. How do you know where the backup system stores raw feeds? Marcus hesitated, not out of fear, but because he had never used his past to make people look at him differently. Evelyn looked at him, waiting. Jerome answered first. Because Mr. Reed helped design the emergency retention process 7 years ago, after the South Stairwell incident. Corporate brought him in as an outside safety consultant before he ever worked nights here. Margaret turned slowly. Marcus Reed. Recognition crossed her face. You are the man whose report saved us from a federal shutdown. Marcus looked uncomfortable with the attention. I wrote what was true. That is all. Evelyn's eyes filled, not with pity, but with understanding. This man had not fallen from nowhere. He had stepped down from a louder life to care for the people he loved, and the company had taught itself to see only the uniform. Daniel tried one last time. Even if that footage is real, it does not prove intent. Evelyn held up her phone. Your messages prove intent. Your threat against his daughter proves character. She faced the board members now gathering in the hallway. Her voice was tired, but steady. The only person who treated me with dignity last night was the man this company taught itself not to see. Then she looked at Brad. You are suspended pending investigation. To Daniel, she said, you will speak to my attorneys from this moment forward. Finally, she turned to Marcus. What do you want? Marcus glanced toward Lily, who stood beside Mrs. Patterson holding her stuffed rabbit. Restore the family benefits your review was about to cut, he said. Not for me. For everyone downstairs who keeps this building alive while nobody learns their names. Evelyn nodded once, and for the first time that morning, the powerful people in the room listened. 3 weeks later, the underground garage beneath Carter Holdings looked different. The same concrete walls stood in the same place, and the same winter air slipped in through the loading dock. But the broken lights had been replaced, the blind corners had new cameras, and a blue sign now hung beside the elevator with words Marcus had read twice before believing they were real. Emergency assistance line. No employee stands alone. Evelyn had not repaired everything with one speech. Real change did not move that quickly, and Marcus respected her more because she stopped pretending it could. Daniel's access to the company had been removed by court order. Brad and the chief financial officer were under formal investigation. The board had voted unanimously to keep Evelyn in command, not because she was untouchable, but because she had finally become honest enough to lead people she had once failed to see. The benefits review was canceled within 48 hours. Family coverage was restored for the night crew, the janitorial staff, the drivers, and the cafeteria workers. A hardship fund was created for employees facing emergencies, and Mrs. Patterson was invited, at Lily's insistence, to help design the reading corner in the new employee family room. Marcus accepted a new role as Director of Safety Systems, though he refused the executive office Evelyn offered him on the 32nd floor. He chose a modest office near the operations level, where people came when things actually needed fixing. His hours changed too. For the first time in years, he was able to walk Lily to school every morning without checking his watch like love had to fit between shifts. Evelyn kept her distance at first, not coldly, but respectfully. She did not turn gratitude into pressure. She did not parade Marcus in front of cameras as proof that she had changed. When reporters asked about the night she disappeared, she said only that a good employee and his family helped her when she needed shelter, and that the company owed its workers more than slogans on walls. Marcus appreciated that. Some stories were too sacred to be used as public relations. Then, on a Friday evening in March, Evelyn arrived at Lily's elementary school carrying a small bouquet of yellow tulips. She wore a plain navy coat, no entourage, no polished armor, only a nervous smile that made her look younger and more human than Marcus had ever seen her. Lily spotted her from the stage during the spring music program and nearly missed her note from smiling so wide. Afterward, in the crowded hallway filled with parents, paper decorations, and the smell of cafeteria pizza, Lily ran to Evelyn and handed her a drawing. It showed 3 people standing beside a black car in the rain. Above them, the clouds were opening, and a bright orange sun filled half the page. That is you, Lily explained. That is Daddy. That is me. And that is the morning coming. Evelyn held the picture carefully, as if it were worth more than any painting in her penthouse. It is beautiful, she said, her voice unsteady. Later, outside the school, Marcus watched Evelyn look at the drawing again beneath the parking lot lights. "You could have hated me," she said. "My company nearly took from you while you were still giving." Marcus adjusted Lily's backpack on one shoulder and looked toward his daughter, who was skipping along the sidewalk with Mrs. Patterson. "Justice without healing just leaves another wound," he said. "I did not want Lily learning that." Evelyn nodded, and for once she had no polished answer. Months passed. She and Marcus became friends first, slowly, honestly. With Sunday dinners where Mrs. Patterson judged the cornbread, Lily taught Evelyn card games, and nobody spoke of board votes or headlines. Whatever grew between them grew quietly, with respect at the center of it. And every time Evelyn walked through the garage at Carter Holdings, she paused by that blue sign, remembering the night she had believed she had nowhere to go, and the man who proved that shelter is not always a place. Sometimes it is a person with every reason to walk away, choosing instead to knock gently on the window.